Okay. So so there's the screen over here, and then the chat window is over here, and two people or somebody makes a comment. My focus is over here, the chat, not in the chat window. One person makes a comment saying Eddie should have a podcast, and then there's a follow up beneath that that says, um, you took my observation, and I don't see that. And then somebody comes on, it's their turn to do a takeaway, and then and then yeah, somebody says Eddie should do a podcast, and then I look and it's been in the chat for some period of time. So I reach behind me and I pull out, I do this and I go, yeah, just shameless plug, fake philosophers. I can't tell if that even got out, but then I see muted by the instructor, and I was like, you know, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of awkward. It was awkward, ninja, respectful, and it's like, you know, people aren't there to see me. They're there to see, you know, the amazing instructors, and I'm not understating that at all. But it was just fascinating because I'm not usually treated in meetings like that at all. I'm not muted. I'm not going to be muted tonight. When I
Well, we'll
typically
see.
go into, when I typically go into a meeting, people are glad to see me, and they only want me to talk. And here I am being muted by by somebody I respect and a very very good instructor. So
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Also, everyone, welcome to the Fake Philosophers.
yes, welcome.
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask you. How did that work? Because I
How did
know
what work?
in our chat we were kind of talking about, you know, sorry, the fucking acting class via Zoom, and I was kind of just curious, like how that process worked. Because it's one of those things like I can imagine. I've never done an online class, but I can almost imagine like an online lecture or something like that. But I can't imagine. I guess I can, but like just doing an acting class online because it's one of those classes you kind of have to actually go attend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. When you said that, it kind of just made me curious.
Well, keep in mind, my social throughout the pandemic has been also doing improv and stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to this format anyway. But you know, the interesting thing is, other than kind of a rehearsal between classmates, I really haven't, you know, done a formal class, and it's very different to do a formal class. And admittedly so, and I'm going to admit it to our fan base as well as my instructors, I was completely dismissive of the process. I'm kind of zoomed out. I want to meet people. I mean, one of the benefits of doing improv classes online was knowing that I would eventually meet people live and then get to perform a show with them. And then that's kind of what led to the acting class. And yeah, the whole point, to your point, is to show up. I'm not, you know, freaking Gandalf in front of a green screen going, "This is not why I got into acting." You know, I'm kind of the same way, right? But that being said, last night during an exercise with myself and my scene partner, there was a level of focus because it was just her performing her extended activity and me being at the door. So I'm just reacting to vibes. In class, I've got an audience there. I've got the instructors looking at me. There's a lot of stimulus for an ADD mind. Being on Zoom, I only focus on her, but I hear the voices of the instructors. And as one of the instructors pointed out, I was completely relaxed and I was completely focused. So it actually ended up. I did not expect that. There was a level of honesty. There was a level of relaxation that was not there before. So as much as I'm dismissive of it, as much as it's not ideal, I couldn't deny the fact that some real progress had been made. So it's like, yeah, pick it. You know, pick your side. But now I'm pro Zoom. It's like after experiencing something like that.
Sure. Sorry, I just caught a sound on my computer. I'm like, damn it, I thought I muted it. So did you so I remember early in the pandemic, a community college, I feel bad because I forgot which one. I submitted a short play and they did a Zoom reading of it and then they put it on YouTube and shit. And someone did it to where like only the actors who were speaking were on the Zoom, like visibly.
Yep.
Is that what
Mhm.
they did? Like, were they taking in the actors in and out so that when it's you and your scene partner, it's only the two of you on the screen?
Yes, hide people who aren't visible or something like that. It's on your
Yeah,
video setting.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I had to state because I've not done that before. You know, somebody who works in the tech industry and
Mhm.
does it for a living. I was like, okay, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to stop video. I'm hiding participants. Got my scene partner on the big screen, and I see nobody else. And instructors are unmuted. And it begins just like we're in the classroom. It begins with a knock, and I was cued via chat when to knock, and
Okay.
I
Interesting.
took it from there. But it worked
Interesting.
out. I could not believe how much it worked out. That's the astonishing part, and it made me extremely curious. Uh, you know, just to be okay with Zoom again.
I guess it makes sense if it's only because, like you said, in a classroom setting,
Hmm.
there's everyone watching. But if it's just you and the person, and then kind of the
Hmm.
instructor in your ear, so to speak, it is kind of a. I could see that being beneficial in a certain way.
Hmm. But that being said, now let's take that medium a step further. You, I brought up that degree of intimacy where it's just me and my partner. There could have been an audience of 100 people, but it's still just me and my partner, and
Hmm.
it's still real reactions. You know, so I don't know. That works in terms of improv. That works in terms of getting offside your head. Could you bring that authenticity to Zoom? I guess that's the next question, to acting. You could certainly do it with improv, but
Well, I was going to
yeah.
ask you. So I could. So especially hearing you talk about it right now, I could see doing scene studies and working with like a partner on a scene via Zoom.
Mhm.
Improv, I feel like would be harder, but you said it's easier.
There are certain aspects of it too. You know, if you're doing, 101 eggs walk into a bar, bartender says the yolk's on you. You know, it's like stuff like that. That's kind of easy. But when you're doing scene work and I'm pouring a beer and I'm handing it to you, that gets kind of odd.
Well,
So
yeah, yeah.
there are some aspects that if you play with it, if it's just kind of the scene play or it's a reaction, uh, yeah, it's easier. But then again, when you have somebody who's like frozen, that you know
Yeah.
that kind of takes away from the magic. But
Yeah, I feel that.
so yeah,
Did you
that's Ed's intro. That's Ed's angst intro, but it's not angst at all.
so so you're in San Diego, did they like require you guys to go back to Zoom because of the pandemic, or was that
There were what I was told is that there were several people who had come back with a positive test. So
ah
we were in person, and because of that, the decision was made to go ahead and hold it via Zoom. There's a script analysis class on Saturday that will
mhm.
also be on Zoom. Uh, so yeah, I'm on board. I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I want people. I want to see people. I want to interact, and
Well, yeah, of
uh,
course.
but, it is what it is. It is what it is.
And it's always been interesting during the pandemic, despite all the stupid and horrible things. It's been interesting to me seeing how people adapt and seeing performing artists doing Zoom shit has been quite interesting to me. Just
And
how they do it.
it's fascinating going to Las Vegas too, and having my son come from Florida, where people just don't care. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal, and he treated me to a buffet. That was my Christmas present at Caesar's Palace. He goes up, it's our turn in line. He goes up, and the cash register goes, "Whoa," and just backs way up and says, "I need you to put your mask on first." Waits till he puts on his mask, and then the conversation starts. So it's also interesting. Yeah, and people will say something as soon as you get into a casino or a hotel. The staff are on that.
Are the casinos in Vegas that strict about it right now? For some reason, I feel
They're
like are they okay? I feel like some months ago, someone I knew went to Vegas and they said it was pretty chill, but maybe in the last month with everything spiking, they got a little more strict or
I,
something.
I think Omicron changed things
Yeah.
because of what's going on in the news, and if you're following the headlines, hopefully what's happening in other parts of the world, there'll be a precipitous drop
Hmm.
after it's had its day, and hopefully that's on the horizon.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We want things to go back to normal, but things aren't really going to go back to normal.
No, they I think they will and they won't, depending on the things. Like I remember, I think it was early on in our podcast journey. I forgot who was talking about it. We were kind of talking about what normal means, and like there's even certain things that were normal, and then the pandemic kind of showed like, oh, those things shouldn't be normal. And so that's where like everyone's like back to normal, back to normal, and why not create a new normal that's better? Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? Yeah.
It makes absolute sense. And I'm encountering that, with remote work. Remote work is here to stay.
Yeah.
Why am I going to go? I used to have an hour commute. And if I didn't have a rideshare partner, it was an hour and a half. And it was at exactly an hour. If we left at 8:05, if we left at 7:05, I would be at work at 8:05. That's how
Yeah.
it was. But yeah, just the idea of doing that now, and having managers. I've been told that things are kind of have gotten to the point during this Great Resignation. If you talk shit about Star Wars, people will up and leave and go find another job.
Because I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like, I feel like I'm ready to get promoted. I've been working on this. Okay, well, give it another 2 months. We'll see how it is. They up and leave. They go to another company, get the position and a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And coming clean, what you would call it, 9 or 8 days ago now, I'm a contractor. So I work based on a contract. And so a new bid had been placed that we're going to angle for another 5 months. That didn't go through by the body that controls the purse strings, as it were. So I'm having to look for another contract. And yeah, that means another job and what have you. Interestingly enough, it's kind of going back to being the corporate hot chick again, because I go on LinkedIn, I just hit a button and then 2 people hit me up. And both of those opportunities pay more than the position I'm making now. So it's like, what the hell was I doing?
Mm-hmm.
If it just rolls up on you and it just says, hey, how you doing? So now, interestingly enough, in the next week, there could be a reestablishment of a contract. But now that this has happened, it's like, do I want to do this in 5 months? Do I want to do this next year? Or do I want to take the cash?
Yeah.
So that's work these days. And it's like, I feel like, just hitting a little button on LinkedIn, it kind of feels like what females going into bars near military bases feels like. It's just like, hey.
That's a way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that. Because I've noticed even like in my industry with like, bartenders and servers, it really is their game right now. Because we've been fortunate enough to be kind of well staffed, but like we interviewed a cook. I interviewed a cook one day. No, excuse me. I didn't even interview him. We on Indeed. He said, I'm interested. I was like, cool. And before we could even interview, he was like, sorry, I got a job.
Yep.
And so it's like, it's the employees market right now. Like they can get a job pretty much not wherever they want, but like people are looking. And I was going to say though too about, I've told this story before on our podcast, but I still think it's just an interesting view to look at. Like I would say, a lot of people say the new normal, and they're like, we don't want a new normal. We just want to go back to the normal. And it's like the new normal could be better. And the example was a guy I know through the bar. He's a realtor, and if you've heard this before, I apologize, but his pretty much story. And this was like a month into the pandemic when everything was still shut down. And he was one of these guys who he thought the pandemic was bullshit. But still, even him, he was like, I'm a realtor. I've been working from home without the distractions of an office, like talking to people and all this stuff. He's like, I get my work done in 3 hours every day. I just lock myself in my office at home, get my stuff done in 3 hours, and then I spend time with my family the rest of the day. I make the same money, but I'm getting the work done quicker, and I'm spending more time with my family, more time for me. Like, I'm happier. And he said, he's like, even from the company standpoint, if we didn't have our office, how much money is the company saving now? To where when we actually, and as realtors, you really don't need an office, like an office space.
Yeah, who shows up there?
Yeah, and so he said, he's like, if we do have to have a company meeting, fine. You spend $100 to rent out a room at some building for an hour. You have your meeting, and you're not paying rent on an office building or anything. And so a guy who thought the pandemic was bullshit was like, I am so much happier right now because I'm spending less time on work because I'm so much more efficient at home, spending more time with my family, all this shit. And it's like that kind of thing can be applied going forward. Kind of like you said with the remote work. Like you don't need to do these commutes because nothing's worse than a fucking bad commute.
Yes,
It's
agreed.
fucking off, especially in LA or San Diego, but especially LA. Like it's fucking
Especially
awful.
LA.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I just found it kind of interesting, especially if you remember the first couple months of the pandemic when people weren't on the roads, and of course there's the states where people didn't give a shit, but in LA like a lot of shit was locked down. Like I think they said it was a record amount of like I guess low smog levels. Like it was like the lowest smog levels in like decades because not as many people were driving and all stuff, and so there's a lot of positives to be taken from it. But of
Makes
course,
sense.
people are stubborn and shit. So
Yeah, well, if you want to go back to the office, go back to the office. I think, and there's a liability behind the health. I have a coworker who, about to be former coworker who is a caregiver for family who has respiratory problems. There's nobody else that can care for this family member except him. So even being around other people who pose a risk, or a remote risk, is a big no-no.
sure.
And he's been at home and it's been flawless. I took the lead and I've been working at home since August for the most part. Every once in a while I went in. But yeah, there's advantages. There's more advantages than not going in because being on a captive restrictive network, I couldn't have access to certain resources on the internet, and so I would have work computer over here, and then I have my computer on this side, and I could look things up and then just implement. So my implementation time was cut down dramatically rather than having to go home. Okay, I'll work on it a little bit afterwards and stuff like that. I had better turnaround times and better results.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. But I mean, obviously, there's some jobs you can't do remotely. You can't bartend remotely.
yeah, bartend remotely. You can't
Fix a clog remotely.
can't change a bedpan or give a shot remotely. Interestingly enough, I've gotten my prescriptions have been remote. It's just a little, hey, how you doing? You okay? You gonna kill yourself? No, okay. Come to the office, pick up a hard copy, and it's not even that anymore. It's just okay. Go at your pharmacy, we'll send it. Okay, go.
I've noticed that too. The only medication I take is for blood pressure, and I've noticed when I get my notification like our system says you're probably running low, and so I get my refill. They even say like we can deliver it to you, or you can do it through Instacart or whatever else. I'm just like, oh, interesting. And that started during the pandemic. I usually go in and pick it up anyway, but with the delivery services, yeah, like it's kind of nice. But
Well, my insurance plan, if I go pick it up at a military pharmacy, there's no cost. So there's that.
there's that, yeah.
There is that. So yeah, it's beneficial. That is it. That is interesting. The concept of the new normal. People want the old normal, but then, why the Great Resignation? You wouldn't have the Great Resignation in this epiphany that you might not be doing what you want. And I read an article. It was fascinating on Goldman Sachs and how their recruits just their new blood, millennials coming in, just don't see the point of having a 15 to 18 hour day, and then they flex.
You said
their
a
Goldman
15
Sachs.
to 18 hour day? Is that a
It's
thing?
ridiculous. That's a thing. It's Wall Street, and you squeeze all that and do that consecutively. You have no life, and the article talks about that.
Yeah.
And how that's kind of the expectation. And then if there's a grumbling, it's like, oh, you need more money. We'll give you more money. Oh, well, we'll help you keep in shape. We'll give you a free Peloton. But they're just starting out and they're in frickin' New York. A Peloton ain't going to fit in the apartment, So it's like, what are you doing? You're tone deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there's
And
even
it's
talk too, like, because I've heard of like when I've worked 12 to 13 hour days, and I'm like, this is fucking obnoxious. I can't imagine a 15-hour day. But I recently read that don't fucking quote me, but some country is like now pushing for like a 4-day work week.
I believe that's Finland, or is it
I want
Sweden
to
or
say
Finland?
it's somewhere in Northern Europe. Yeah, somewhere up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying like 4-day work week, like, and the whole shtick, like they just want handouts, they're lazy. But the argument, kind of like with the guy, the realtor I was talking about, if you were spending more time away from work, you're happier. You're now a
Mhm.
more productive employee. So even
Very
though
much so.
even though you drop a day, you're doing more in those 4 days.
Mhm. Very
Um,
much so.
and so that's
Very
it's just interesting, like all these revelations.
American concept of work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it too, and we get so stuck in what we've been told. Like in
Mhm.
America, you work 5 days, you take 2 off, 5 days, 2 off, with exceptions.
Mhm.
That we're stuck in that to where a 4-day work week is alien to us. It's
Very much so.
yeah, and but then once you start like looking at it, it's like the 5-day work week is not quote natural. Like we
Mhm.
created that. So
Very much
so
so.
yeah, so why are we stuck on it? You know what I mean?
But you go to a country like, and the first time I actually experienced a work day was I was in the markets of Istanbul in Turkey,
Hmm.
and just kind of touristing around, and the sun started to go down, and people are closing up their shops, and it was like, yeah, that makes sense. Sun goes down, you close up shop.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
sun goes up, you open your shop up, and you're ready for business. And that's kind of to an nth degree in Spain, where it's like, okay, you get off work, everybody goes home, chills, has drinks. Restaurants don't even open till 9 p.m.
I didn't know that.
because you're at the bar first. So
Interesting.
as American tourists, we're going, what the hell's wrong with these restaurants?
Yeah.
I can't. But, the bars are. Oh, okay, it's the culture, and that seems wonderful. And coming off of a trip, spent some time with my son. Spent New Year's from Tuesday to Saturday, all in Las Vegas. Coming back after a trip that was uncompromising, that just had some quality, well-deserved time that we've wanted, in kind of celebrating each other and celebrating, our successes during 2021.
Mm.
Uh, I came back ready to work. I started thinking about work at the tail end of the trip. And speaking for myself, I got a lot more work done just because I was rested.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm. And just, going to class at night, because it's something that I want to do. And honestly, this is my caveat, and this is the hill I'm dying on. It's like, I'm going to be taking classes at night. You know that, right? That's what I'm going to be doing.
Hmm.
There's one class that is 1 to 4 on Friday. It's moving 1 to 4 on Tuesday. You don't have a problem with that, do you? No, you don't.
Hmm.
But it's good for me because working at home, honestly, if I didn't have the opportunity to go out, I wouldn't see other people because there's not really a need unless I go grocery shopping or something, and actually be social and interact. So it's something that I want to do, and it's very positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get something out of it, and so that's my bargaining chip now. You want me to work for you? Okay, here's my stipulations.
Yeah. Here's my schedule. Here's where I can work. Yeah.
And I get my work done, and I'm not understating that. I'm leaving a position where the boss doesn't want to see me leave, coworkers don't want to see me leave. And I had a boss who was very supportive in terms of just trust, getting the job done. And I'm taking a class. I need to leave a little early. Can I switch my schedule up? I'll work 1 hour extra every day and then leave early on Friday. And answer was consistently no problem. So,
Nice.
and that's what kept me there. That's what, and if other employers listening now, that's what really kept me there. That's what I didn't even consider looking for another job, despite the fact that I only now just learned that I was getting paid less.
Well, yeah.
Just because it was that flexibility of schedule. It was that, mission, and I just like the work environment.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting to return to new normal, and the desire for the old normal, which ain't coming back. It's like we should have horses and buggies again. It's like, well, okay, you can have one.
That's a good way to look at it too. A lot of people, and I'm if you talk to my family or my fiance, they'll all tell you I'm one that hates change. I don't like change. But I'm not that stubborn to where, like, if change is good, then cool, then I'm for it. And so I think a lot of people are just stuck. And I think I'm gonna dip into politics a little bit. I think a lot of people it's politicized to where if there's a new normal, it's because this whole thing. It's you know what I mean. Like I'm trying to be vague, but I think you know what I mean.
You don't
Like,
need to be vague. It's your damn show. It's our damn show. Don't be vague.
well,
I
no, it's
mean,
just I do feel like so. I'm trying to think of a way to an example. What are you drinking, by the way?
I'm drinking an Ale Smith Nutty Brown.
Nut brown. That's a good one.
Brown Ale. I thought I had a fat tire. I didn't. But oh damn, I have this.
AleSmith's a good brewery. They make good shit.
It is. It's very good. It's very good. And as a chaser, I'm drinking a Mexican cola.
You have a chaser for a beer?
I did. Well, I opened it earlier because I was eating a cheeseburger, and it's kind of fun. It's so empowering just to know how to be able to cook a decent cheeseburger. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's my recipe. I take ground beef, preferably ground sirloin. I put a little Montreal rub in it,
Okay.
and then I take an egg, crack it, put some gloves on, mix it real good.
Sure.
I fry up some bacon first. Drill.
Drill.
I drill the bacon grease.
Drill it in.
Just drill it in. I empty the pan and then I cook it in the remaining grease. The burgers. I have a bacon press. Flip them over. Cut some cheddar cheese. Put some sourdough bread. Put some mayonnaise on that bread. Put some jalapeno coins or like the jalapeno chips or whatever, you know, the breaded chips you put on salad. I put that on there and put some bacon and some barbecue sauce and make my own my version of the Western bacon cheeseburger.
I was gonna say, so you don't do the veggies or nothing, the tomato, lettuce, and
What's a veggie? No,
Fair.
typically not. And I have a story about that. I remember I came to California in 1983 from Maryland. I had never tried like barbecue sauce, and I saw on a Carl's Jr. menu for the first time the Western bacon cheeseburger, and I was like, what the hell is that? I ordered it, and my life changed. That was so.
And you know what?
Brilliant.
I've been off fast food for a while now. I hate it because I love fast food. Carl's Jr.'s Western is the Western. Like they do it right. They do it right.
Yep, they were the first one, and that's what I stepped to. But it's nice. Because I'm in walking distance of McDonald's. There's the craving for the Big Mac. I could do that, but I got it here, and I'm a damn good cook, so I'm just gonna cook here.
There
That's
you go.
so empowering.
Yeah. There you go. No, that's a great way to look at it. So to get back on the subject, I guess we we tangented for a moment.
This is ADD at its finest.
But because I thought about it, and I was like, I like where we're going with this, and I was like, people are gonna think I'm a fucking coward. So the vaccination, for instance, I don't know how you feel about it. For me, even before COVID, I was always pro vaccines. Because and so recently I have this bad habit of getting into arguments with strangers online about shit. And but I've been good about it recently of not engaging in that because it's just useless shit.
Yeah, you're pissing into an ocean of piss.
Yeah.
Why?
But I've noticed like before I stopped doing that. I got into this conversation with someone and I was like, here's the science, here are the numbers, like it makes rational sense to get vaccinated. And this person was like, oh yeah, and they showed like a clip of Joe Biden. Granted, I think it was taken out of context. And I'm not a Biden fan or anything, but like they showed something about Joe Biden talking negatively about the vaccines when Trump was still president. And my response was simply, I don't give a fuck what Biden said about the vaccine. Like my opinion on the vaccine is not inspired or informed by politics or politicians. Yes. It's informed by the science and the numbers. But that's my example. What we talked about before we got off on the tangent is that these things get politicized so that's quickly. Yeah, and that's my kind of point about a lot of opinions about COVID and then the new normal. Is that a new normal is not bad. Like rewind 300 years, like think of all the changes that have happened that are the new normal at the time and people oppose them. We're talking about medical advancements, scientific advancements, entertainment advancements, like all this shit that wasn't the norm that is now the new norm. And so it's just weird. Not, I mean, I get it. I say it's weird and I don't understand it, but I do get it that all this shit's politicized with COVID. Like,
That
and
is
it's just,
that is the weird part. But then again, if you understand politics today, it makes perfect sense. You know,
yeah. And that's where I say, like, I'm like, I don't understand. I don't get it. But in the back of my head, it's like, no, I do. Like, it's petty
yeah,
and
you
it's
do.
stupid, but I
You
get
know,
it. Yeah.
it is kind of silly logic. I mean, I see arguments on electric cars. It's like, well, what are you going to do if you run out of electricity? What are you going to have to do? And you could make the same damn argument about, gasoline engines. Why would you get that? You can just pull your horse over. You get fuel that way. You pull over a stream. If you're tired, the horse gets a rest too.
Yeah.
I don't see that argument, and that's only 100 years old. That's you can make the exact same argument. So, and I think there's still a law in the books, if I'm not mistaken, that in England, if you're driving a car, you have to stand, I think, about 5 feet in front of it, waving a red flag to warn so the automobile doesn't scare the horses.
Oh, got it. I was confused for a second. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
So it's like the technology moves a lot faster than people's minds, and you can see where I'm going with this because I hit you up on killer robots and killer algorithms.
yeah.
So what happens when the human mind is too slow? Because the next word is going to be fought at the speed of the internet. Speed of the internet, if a human mind is involved. If it's too damn slow, then you give it to the algorithm decides, and that's dangerous.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, once we start getting to Skynet, then maybe we could set this is the normal, no new normals. When we start getting
it's too late.
Yeah.
Who's going to relinquish that power? Who's going to, there's going to be one country, even if you sign a treaty, that's going to go down that road.
Sure. And we see that already anyway, yeah.
And that's the scary part, and it's closer than we think it is. That's the really scary part.
I was going to say before I forget, though, another example of a new normal being better. So I am a carnivorous man. I love my steak. I love my chicken, all that shit. But if someone said to me, what if we can make these plant-based alternatives that taste just like chicken, and this is hypothetical because I haven't tried the veggie burger shit yet, but if hypothetically it tastes just like beef, that we have these veggie steaks that taste just like beef steaks. Hypothetically, if we could make these items, would you like to switch over to them? And in the long term, it'll help the environment because of the whole way that like cows are treated and cows are slaughtered, etc. In my head, like, of course, the stubborn part of me was like, no, I want my fucking beef. But if it's an alternative that tastes just like it and is actually long-term better for the environment and better for the planet, why wouldn't I? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. If there's a reasonable facsimile or something that close, it's not going to be 100%, but what about 75? What about 80, 90, and it goes up from there? Well, here's another monkey wrench. What if we're not using plants? What if it's just meat grown in a lab? There's no water.
Perfect.
There's no animals getting slaughtered. It's just tissue grown in a lab, a stem cell, and that's what you're eating. It has the same molecule as anything else. And if you really want to help the environment, there's actually two organisms that are flourishing on the planet right now: humans and insects. So if you want something that's replenishable, you start eating the cockroaches and grubs and what have you. And that's interesting because in other countries there's not the shame of, there's not that weirdity of eating insects. In this country, we're not into that. And I'm one of those people. I ate crickets and I was like, okay, that was fun. No,
Yeah, and I'd be the same way. No, I can't be a hypocrite. I'd be the same way.
It's the disgust factor.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you eat cow, but you don't eat all parts of the cow. You don't eat the sweet breads or sweet meats and what have you. And they're just the organ meats. And I'm American too. And I'm not into kidneys and liver and cabeza, and that don't do it for me.
And even like, I think I might have said this on a previous podcast. We went to some restaurant with my in-laws, and it's one of those restaurants where you order like everyone orders and it's like all shareable.
Yep.
But they had
Yeah.
beef cheeks on the
Mm-hmm.
menu. I'm not sure if you've had a beef cheek before. Uh,
Maybe.
and so my lady and her dad were both like, we don't want any part of that. That sounds gross. Me and her mom were like, let's fucking try this shit. And
Yeah.
it was good as shit. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's really a cow's cheek or not. I can't,
Yeah. I
but
believe, yeah.
but it was super good. But yeah, the idea of eating a cricket is not appetizing to me. But I love shrimp, and shrimp's pretty much a fucking insect in the ocean, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Same here. I love shrimp too.
So I don't know. But yeah, the whole plant based thing is just kind of like that idea of people hearing change and then just
Mhm.
not wanting to, despite every logical argument for it.
Well, it's logical and it comes down to taste. If you don't want it, don't eat it.
Well, of course, but I mean, like
Yeah.
in that hypothetical, if they had a plant based option, and again, I'm a carnivorous dude. I like my steak, but if they had a
Mhm.
plant based option or some grown in the lab, like you said, whatever option that tastes just like the real thing and it helps the environment, like logically, why would I be opposed to that? What am I losing?
Mhm.
But people get so stuck up in their feelings and their stubbornness that it's like, no, I still want my fucking beef. Regardless
Yeah.
if it tastes the same, if it feels the same, all that shit, the fact that it is different sticks in their mind and it's enough for them not to want to change or go to
And
this thing. Yeah.
it depends how much it's ingrained into you too, because there's nobody pining after a sidekick or a BlackBerry anymore. It got
Yeah.
replaced with something. It wasn't that holy. It was just a piece of a technology
Mhm.
that passed. But when you're dealing with the food, like even millennials are having difficulty. There's just not uh, the desire, the taste that kind of others had growing up, like deli foods, like piss beer, like the Budweiser, like the Bud Light.
Yeah.
Everybody's into craft beer, IPA this and IPA that. I'm not a fan of IPAs, but I respect it. If somebody else wants to drink it, I got my nut brown here. As long as you have the dark beer, I'm good to go, because I don't want to drink piss either.
Mhm.
So, that's a new normal too. I mean, if you want your old Milwaukee, good luck. But that being
Ugh,
said,
yeah.
these are the little things that people don't talk about. And
Mhm.
it's change unless it's a sacred cow. And of course the sacred cows make the best hamburgers. So
Well, yeah, of course.
yeah. And change doesn't go over well if you're not prepared for it.
It
And if
doesn't.
you're
Yeah, in this podcaster I listen to every now and then, he talks about this, that he believes, and I actually completely agree with him, that like philosophy, critical thinking, all these things should be introduced early in life, like middle school maybe,
very
so that
much so.
you don't grow up with this set mindset. Like you understand that there's different like opposing views and all this shit. Because as serious, because when I said opposing views and all that stuff, it sounds political, but it's like just everyday life. These things come up and people just don't know how to discuss them or change it, etc. And that's where, like, I think I might have said it, I almost had a minor in philosophy, so I took some
Mhm.
classes and it really did change the way I looked at the world and talked to people, and it still informs the way I act today. Just being logical and like I said with the steak thing, like if it's logically
Yeah, yeah.
tastes the same, like anyway, it it's just very, I guess, irritating or frustrating to me the way people are so stuck in their ways. Coming from someone who's stuck in his fucking ways, I'm not a
Yeah.
hypocrite. I'm fucking stubborn as shit sometimes. I make sure my lady doesn't hear that, because she'll rub it in my face. But no, it's just really strange to me, when logically, like, change can be good, but people don't
It's
want
not
it.
strange because we're human beings. And
Yeah.
along with that logical component, there's the emotional component.
Mhm.
And your ways are bred in history, are bred in emotion, are bred in tradition. And you want to keep that tradition, and things that,
Mhm.
we've been using horses longer than we've been using cars,
Yeah.
but there's not a protest to that, says we should be going back to horses.
Yeah.
Uh, And with regards to argumentation, I think there needs to be more critical thinking. The first debate I ever had, I took a speech and debate class, yada, yada, yada. They said you should join the speech and debate team. I went to my first debate. It was LA City College, did novice NDT, which means we're debating. It was be it resolved, powers of commander in chief should be substantially curtailed. We were affirmative, they were negative, and I got so heated. I wanted to kick the opposing team's ass. And then 15 minutes later, now I have to debate negative. So everything I stood for,
You have to fight against them.
now have to do it. And that's, kind of in a formal discussion. That's the last time I really got angry, because then you take the anger out at now, you're in a relationship, you kind of get emotional. But as far as just, kind of, critical thinking and what have you, it's a fun discussion,
Yeah.
And if you can take the emotion out of it and then just go about things logical, then it's actually kind of a lot of fun. Trouble is, people have their strongly held views. I don't care if you're in your 80s or if you're in high school. You do have your strongly held views.
Yep.
And when that sacred cow gets touched, there is a reaction. There is an emotional reaction.
Sure.
So you're out of your logical brain. You're in your amygdala. You're in the fight or flight. Damn it, you're gonna fight for some reason, and that's why we have protests. And and again, I've said this before. You're always protesting something that's uncertain, because I've not seen a protest yet telling us that the sun's not going to rise tomorrow. I have yet to see that protest.
Sure.
And what happens when it does? Well, then you're proven wrong, because there's a degree of certainty. What is protested? Abortion, which God is right, Democrats, Republicans, laws. Uncertainty is the real crux of debate and argumentation and emotional argumentation. If it's a certainty, then there's no trouble, because there's nothing to argue.
And that's where I guess part of my frustration is too, is that in my opinion, and I was gonna say and fact, but never mind. There are some things that, like, factually speaking, statistically speaking, numerically speaking, makes sense, but people still argue against it because of their personal opinions. And I was gonna I was gonna match you with what you said about that debate team, or what you were on in college. I happened to take it was part of the core curriculum, and I forgot the title of the class, but it was pretty much something along the lines of like critical thinking and argument, or like something like that. And pretty much the class is one semester of teaching you how to argue. And it was like they went over logical fallacies, how like all your premises have to add up to the conclusion correctly. And it was such a simple class, changed my fucking life. Because and even to this day, I'm 34 now. I'm gonna be 35 soon. I took this class when I was like 22 or 23. Still, this class, I remember so much shit. Because then when you hear people talking and making arguments, you're like, you're full of shit. Like, that argument makes no sense. Whereas someone who hadn't taken that class was like, oh, this guy is making perfect sense. And so it was just it was a mind-opening thing when I took that class, because like it really did like open your mind to like, oh, like these arguments make no fucking sense. And then and what's frustrating now is if you point that out to someone who isn't familiar with these concepts, they think you're just some fucking fake philosopher, pseudo philosopher who's just trying to be all high and mighty, and like I'm smarter than you. And it's like, no, like you literally aren't making sense. Because I've encountered this. I think I said that's where the name fake philosopher came from, was some person calling me that because I called them out, just saying like your argument doesn't make sense based on these principles. And they're like, what are you, some sort of fucking fake philosopher? And I was like,
that's awesome. I had no idea that's where we got our name. That's pretty cool.
So that's where the name came from. And I was like, it made me laugh. I was like, that's funny. But at the same time, I was like, these classes should be standard. Like, I think these should be high school classes to where people learn how to argue and discuss things logically. Because I think you're right in the sense of people are driven by emotions. I'm definitely driven by emotions. But I think you can be driven by emotions and still be logical at the same time. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
difficult. It's possible, but how many people want to put themselves through that effort?
You're right.
Because it's you get a buzz off of being right. You get a buzz. It's like hitting somebody in the face when you have a better position and the person can't counter. And
Yeah.
it's like getting hit in the face when when you're given data that flies in the face of your belief.
Mhm.
It makes your argument invalid. But my friends, they all believe what I believe, and the person on television, the news channel that I watch, they say this, you know, and I can't be wrong because all these people are telling me right. And then you have confirmational bias.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're not woke, or you are woke, and then you're just,
Well, yeah.
And my coping mechanism, it's very interesting because I was terrible. I was very, very bad. Because I took my very first college class ever. I was 16 years old. I took argumentation and debate, speech 6, Crystal Watson. Story is
Nice.
that my mother just knew the benefit of enrolling me in college. She knew somebody who knew somebody. She knew like an administrator there, and one of the administrators knows this professor. I said, "This is the class I want." And kind of did a drug deal, just said, okay,
Sure.
here's an ad list. Oh yeah, you're that guy. Just wait here. Crystal Watson, she eventually became the director of forensics at Pasadena City College. But at 16, learning speech and debate, and then going back, and then joining the speech and debate team my freshman year, I was terrible because I could win any argument off of that. And I lost a lot of friends, and people didn't like me because of that. Flash forward to today in improv, and it's the opposite. I don't try to prove you wrong. I just agree with everything you're saying.
Well, yeah, of course. It's
And
improv.
that's more fun.
Yeah.
Because you can point out somebody's deficiencies in logic by agreeing with them. And it's the trippiest thing in the world, because then you don't cause anger. You cause a short circuit.
Yeah.
And that's
I know
fascinating
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That is fascinating to watch. People just process in their brain everything, and then you repeat that and add just a little bit of information,
Yeah. So it's different.
That's so much more fun.
It's absolutely different. And I want to go back to something in a minute, but with the whole Die Hard's not a Christmas movie thing, I got a buddy, and so again, I still laugh at how much that pisses everyone off when I say it's not a Christmas movie. But so a buddy, he was trying to argue with me, and he's like, "Well, if Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, then Home Alone's not a Christmas movie." And so I argued with him, and I was like, "No, Home Alone is a Christmas movie." And so we had this argument about whether or not Home Alone's a Christmas movie. And at some point, I was like, you know what, fuck it, because like I said in the Die Hard episode, I really don't have a dog in the fight. I just do it for laughs. And so I was like, fuck it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Home Alone is not a Christmas movie. You won. You win. And he was kind of like, well, what? He was like, well, no, it is a Christmas movie. And I was like, no, you said it's not. And he was like, well, no, he was like, no, because I was using your arguments about Die Hard. And I was like, and you're right. Those arguments are flawless. Home Alone is not a Christmas movie. And he kind of was just like, fuck you, Mike. He knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
But one thing I was going to go back to is, because I've said it about my experiences with it, and you just said it. So I kind of got a little jolt hearing you say it, is, it's my sister. We've in the past, it's even before the philosophy class I took, we've gotten into debates and discussions about certain things. And I remember she said to me at one point, and I forgot her exact words, but she said to me, "This is why you're bad at debating." And I was like, what? And she's like, because you're too logical, or something along the lines. I forgot the exact phrasing, but she said it was something along the lines of like, you're too logical. You bring facts into it and this and that. Because even at the time, I don't remember her exact words, but I remember thinking like, isn't that what makes you a good debater? Is being logical and bringing facts and all this stuff. But that was her argument for why I wasn't good, or why I was not good at debating, and why it was frustrating debating me, and why I'm bad at it. I forgot her exact phrasing. So when you just said that having this knowledge in your debate team, people got frustrated with you, and people got irritated with you, and you lost friends, and it's like, but you're right. But and so it's just I've explained that to some people, my experience with my sister, and so to hear you say it, I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. I'm not the only person who's experienced that.
Yeah, because it's a slap in the face. You want somebody who agrees with you, and that's kind of the caveat of improv and what have you. And if somebody's being, in the end, people just want to be heard and people want to be understood. They don't feel like they're being understood if they're being argued with. So if somebody says something interesting, something you disagree with, if you want to get on their side, just listen to them. And you do that with 2 questions. Why would you say that? And then tell me more. Or tell me, just give me a little detail on that, and just have them, get it out. And whether you want to take an opposing view and have somebody who doesn't like you, or agree with everything you say and amuse yourself, amuse people around you, and make them ironically feel good and short-circuited. I highly encourage going this route, because you make more friends and you still get your point across, but it's just more fun, because how can you're not disagreeing if you say something and I say yes and I add information, but I've completely disagreed with you, but I've said yes and I've done information, that produces some very interesting results.
I'd agree.
Very interesting.
Because I enjoy the arguments or discussions where people do disagree with me and we can have a conversation, because it's a fucking, we're jerking each other off. If I'm like, Eddie, this movie's great, and you're like, yeah, it's great, and I'm like, yeah, it's great, and you're like, yeah, it's great, and we're just jerking each other off. But if I'm like, I think this movie's great, and you're like, yeah, it's great, but these issues, and I'm like, okay, there's those issues, but like, what about this? And that's more interesting to me. So I think a lot of people, especially, again, I'm not doing it anymore, but like when I would just talk to people online, I think they think I'm being confrontational. In reality, I like the conversation. Like I like having the conversation. It's interesting to me to hear.
Well, people don't usually have debate, and you're usually, surround yourself with people who and you either know if they agree or disagree with you. So if you have the stranger, you are confronting them if you're telling them that they're wrong. That's the way it's perceived.
Yeah, they think that you are coming at them. Yeah, you're right.
And I've had that too. I feel attacked, and it's like I'm just talking to you. I'm just providing another set of facts. That's what I'm doing. I'm not attacking anybody.
I still remember one of the most bizarre things was when I was still bartending a lot. A guy who I had not seen before, he brought up like religion. And he asked me, what's your religious beliefs? Or he says something. And I'm not a liar. I try to keep religion and politics away from when I'm working, but I'm not a liar. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, I'm not an atheist, but I'm not religious. Like, I'm just kind of here. And he immediately started going like, well, you better change your tone. Like, you better start like finding the Lord, or else you're going to hell. Pretty much told me that. And I was like, all right, bro. Like, do you need another Coors Light? Like, what? I was like, what?
Are you in a bar?
Yeah, I was like, what the
Did
fuck?
you take out a home loan?
It was just bizarre. I was like, because he was very direct. Like, he's like, oh, so you don't believe that Jesus is our savior and all this stuff? And I was like, I'm not saying he's not. I just don't know if I believe he is. That's just me. I'm a skeptic. And he was like, well, you need to, and he started going in on me about like, if you don't change your tone, you don't change your mind, you're gonna go to hell. And I was like, bro, I'm trying to work. Like, what are you doing?
And he does that to everybody.
No, of course. But it was just funny that, like, even though he came at me pretty much, like, I apparently offended him so much without even saying anything offensive. But
yeah,
I was going to your point of a stranger. If you don't know someone, they feel attacked by you. That's my point. Was that he apparently felt like I was disrespectful. I don't know.
Well, it's the same thing. Being a bartender and having female bartenders, they like you because they're being friendly. They don't want to go out with you necessarily.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. Oh, so you're a bitch. No, I'm just working and I'm here to serve you a beer and that's it. It's transactional.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
So there's more than one way into that.
It's like the stripper mentality. Yeah.
It all boils down to emotion versus logic. And if you're married to your argument, you're going to get angry once that's challenged. And once additional data is presented that flies in the face of the data you've given yourself and the data by which you are limiting yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I try my best. Like, granted, we all have our biases. We're not gonna say I'm not human, but generally speaking, I try to say, like, if you provide new information, like, yeah, I'll change my mind. Like, why is that considered a weakness to change your mind? That's one thing
And
too.
honestly, and taking it to an nth degree, this is all about debate and stuff like that. But honestly, I just don't get into it with people anymore. If I
Yeah.
sense tempers getting raised, I get up. Okay, excuse me. Yeah, you got a point there. All right, let me go pee.
Yeah,
You know? It's like
It was
do
actually
something else. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it.
Yeah,
What's the win? They're not going to change their mind. They're not changing yours. It's like, okay.
and it's funny you bring that up because, like I said, I've been kind of better at not engaging people, especially on Facebook. Like if I'm having a conversation with you, like you, Mitch, like the boys, like we could have conversations and shit. Lord knows we all disagreeing on stuff. But this guy, I brought him up in past podcasts. This guy I know, I grew up, he was a coach of mine. And on his page, I think it was me and Mitch discussing this, I would kind of just try to engage him productively, but it would devolve into him just unloading on me and his friends unloading on me because I don't agree with what their stances are. And so there was, I forgot what episode it was, Mitch and I were talking about it, and I told him, I was like, I've just stopped engaging this guy. I love him to death. He's a good guy. But I just stopped engaging him in these topics because, like you said, why? Why put yourself to this shit? And funny enough, true story. I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago. He messaged me on Facebook, and he said, "Hey, where are you?" And I was like, I thought like maybe like physically, where am I? Maybe he's at the bar. He hasn't seen me in like years. Maybe he's at the bar and he's looking for me, like wants to see me, whatever. And I was like, I'm at the grocery store. Like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, no. Like, are you on Facebook still? Because you could still have Facebook Messenger without having your account active. Anyway, but I was like, yeah, I'm on Facebook. Like, what are you talking about? I'm on Facebook. Like, what's up? And he's like, I haven't seen your comments on my post recently. I thought maybe you decided. And right?
That is hilarious.
And so
Yeah,
I was,
and that's the other guys.
yeah, but so on one hand, I respected it that like he noticed like, oh, Mike's not engaging me anymore. I hope everything's okay. I don't know, but but I did message him back, and I just straight up told him, I was like, dude, look, like I'm actually not trying to engage people about politics anymore because it just evolves into fucking insults and arguments. So I'm not engaging your posts anymore. And he actually said, he's like, all right, cool, like good for you. I respect that. And he even said, he's like, but like I hope you still pay attention because like you're a good dude and you mean well. Like I hope you still kind of have your opinions and you fight for them. And I was like, no, of course. I don't feel like engaging you and your people anymore because I get trashed every time I try to. But so it was just an interesting, it was a very strangely cool thing that he noticed I stopped engaging him, messaged me to see if I was still on Facebook, and then was completely fine with the fact that I did stop engaging him.
Because he was getting a buzz out of it as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you weren't getting buzzed anymore.
Yeah.
And that completely feeds into why I would pick debates with people because I know I could win and I would get a little buzz.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I'll be completely honest.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna pick a fight that you're not gonna win. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why would you?
Exactly. And the trouble is I was arguing with the wrong people. You know, it's like, it's not fun anymore if like I can win every argument. And stuff, but I just don't get into arguments anymore. It's just like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and that is a weird corner to churn. It was with that guy. I'm not going to go into it, but like a post that I engaged with where I was like, why am I even fucking doing this anymore?
Yeah, exactly. There's no way. The juice is not worth the squeeze. There's not even juice out of this squeeze. The nine's not going to change. There's not going to be an open heart or an open mind.
Yeah.
You're wasting your time. But if you want to buzz, go for it, you know?
Absolutely. And that's where like I will say I will still absolutely post the diehard shit because I just love the outrage.
That's your buzz, and
absolutely, I'm guilty.
That's the well you're going to after you push that plate. As soon as that Christmas music stop, it's Die Hardville for you.
Yeah,
that's good to know. I'm going to expect that from now on.
Yeah, we got 11 more months till I could start that shit up again. But
Absolutely. You're gonna be prepping every single. It's just like putting the Christmas tree in the ground now.
Hmm.
You know it's gonna be growing out, and you get that same tree out. And
And what's funny, I've told people this in person, and I'll say this on the podcast. So
Mhm.
I have provided, I think, even though we got cut off, we all kind of came to a conclusion about it. And even with me arguing all the logical facts of why Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, Christmas movie, there is one argument that everyone is missing that trumps everything I've said.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say it because why
Okay.
why the fuck am I going to give away my kryptonite?
That's true.
But there is one argument that everyone has consistently just completely missed that would trump every argument about Die Hard being a Christmas
That should
movie.
be the tagline. Everything we've discussed. That should be the tagline of this episode, because then you will have people they're not going to wait till Christmas. You're going to have people drawing a fine tooth comb through the movie. How can I
Where is it?
beat Mike's logic? He knows the weakness to his argument. Now it's time for me to be a detective, an internet reporter,
Mm-hmm.
and find out what the hell he's talking about so I can beat him.
Well, I
And,
know if I was in a situation
on
like
the
you
show.
said, to where I had to flip my argument,
Mhm.
like in your debate thing, I would have to just resign. I can't give it away.
Okay, good.
I can't
Good.
give it away.
That tells me, whether the audience knows it, that tells me that how deeply you've researched this topic, that you know its own weakness. So you've mastered the topic. Now it's your job. There can't be that linchpin. There has to be. You could argue this, but then there's also these factors to consider. So you could have 11 months prep for that too.
Well, it's interesting. So I know our episode about Die Hard was cut off short because of the fucking soundboard, which I'm not sure if you know. I got a new soundboard and it's working fine.
Yes, you've got my soundboard.
No,
The,
I didn't. I ended
Rode-
up not getting yours. I know I talked to you about it. I got a different one. Okay, I hear you. I got some too. Um, the soundboard effects. But no,
Yes.
somewhere. So I'm not. Again, I have to be vague about this shit so no one uses it against me. But during that conversation, and other conversations I have with people, but during that conversation, a thing came up, and I did skirt the issue and dismissed a topic that was crucial to the argument that trumps mine. So I will say that much, that the topic did come up and I was able to brush it aside.
Okay. Well, you've just thrown a glove, and I'm anxious to see
Yeah.
how many viewers.
Well, the seven of them will all, I'm sure,
One of those 7 is going to pick that glove up and slap you around with it,
probably.
and then you owe him like a chicken trophy or something,
I could do that. A Die Hard trophy.
or one of mine.
Or one of yours.
Okay, so he has a Wings Festival. He hands out little trophies. War of Wings, where we get together, compete over sauces. I think 2 years in a row I took very last place, and I'm just fortunate that I didn't do that again. So yeah, that's what I mean by chicken trophy, folks.
And we've had this discussion. I still feel guilty because I think the first year you got the last place award was my fault. Do you remember this at all?
I think because it was like, sir, you rushed it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had asked you, because so now it's different. Now we only we just, as the chicken comes out, you eat it. But the first couple years, it's like we put all the wings out at once.
Yeah, I know. It just sat there and got cold. Yeah.
Or I forgot what it was. But either way, I had asked you, I was getting ready to serve one of my wings. And I asked you, Eddie, how much time are you, how long are you ready? Until you're ready. And you took it as me saying, Eddie, hurry the fuck up. So you rushed your recipe, and then it came
Yes.
out not great. In reality, I was just asking you, hey, Eddie, how long do you have left? And you thought I was rushing you. So indirectly, I fucked you up, and you came in last.
With that specific recipe, yeah, it was a fried recipe. I do remember that year, and it was fried, and it came out really soggy because I felt I did get rushed and I didn't have an oil thermometer.
Yeah, that was
So
it.
yeah, of course. And had I not entered that, because kind of my spicy, sticky wings, I mean, they went off. They were fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that particular recipe, because it was rushed, it didn't turn out so good. So yeah,
Yeah.
had I not made a second submission and uh, had I not, had I stuck to one submission rather than two, I think I was goaded into that second one too.
Maybe.
Um, yeah, I took last place. Oh well.
But
And I still those in front of my television.
yeah, so, awesome. I think the year before that though, I think it was you that you did like a honey chipotle that was really good.
Yeah, I tried to
That's like
infuse it.
5-6 years ago now, but I still remember it was a honey chipotle.
Yeah,
or
that
something.
was I remember that too. That didn't turn out like I thought, and that was actually borrowed from there's a English pub in Old Town, and I just couldn't believe it how they did that. But yeah, I was enamored with that recipe. Tried to create it. I didn't think I hit it. Apparently
I
it
remember
was a-
thinking it was good because I remember there was that one and a couple other ones that I thought should have been contenders for the best, and then it went to something else, and I was like, all right, fuck it.
yeah.
But
Now we're talking about wings. We went from
this is all philosophy.
it is.
I got
How long have we been going? How long? Have we
We're
been
at
going?
about 1:05 now, so we should wrap it up soon. But I will
Yes.
say, maybe this year we normally do the wing competition in August. Maybe this year we'll videotape some of it and post it. But I think this year, so. I to some people to our dedicated 7 viewers, I've talked about how I grow peppers now, and I made a peach Reaper sauce. When I say peach, I don't mean the fruit peach. It's a variant of the Reaper that grows like a yellowy light orange color. I made a sauce out of that a couple months ago that was actually really fucking good. And so I froze some of the extra peppers. So I think this year, the very first year we did it. I'm not sure if you were actually there. The very first year we did it, we kind of threw it together, and my wing won first. And I haven't won shit since then. And so I think this coming year I have some contenders. I think.
I noticed this year the wings with rubs did extremely well. The wings that were rubs. That's what I noticed this year.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I'll have to go look at the Facebook page because to the viewers, we post all the results on the Facebook page. 'Cause I remember I did a dry rub, and I over rubbed it to where like people who ate it, it was like sawdust in their mouth because I put too much shit on it.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and then I think Danny did one that didn't taste bad.
Okay, we're kind of marginalizing and excluding our viewers because it's like we don't eat the wings. What does this have to do with us? We need to publish these results, and we do need to film it. But I think we're being kind of self-indulgent right now talking about wings.
I don't give a shit. We're talking. They're listening.
Okay, at an hour 5.
But no, I think Danny's was a more receptive dry rub because he lightly sprinkled it to where I caked it on accident.
Yeah, do that. Can't overdo it.
Yeah, to where the flavor was good, but they're like, my mouth's suddenly dry.
Yeah. It needs to be a good experience.
Yeah. And then I forgot where I was going to mention this earlier that have you heard of Aleppo pepper?
A what?
Aleppo?
Aleppo.
Aleppo?
That's
Something like that?
Aleppo city in Syria. I have never heard of Aleppo pepper.
So my mother-in-law, my future brother-in-law, she asked me at some point, she's like, hey, I saw these spices. I know you're into peppers and shit. Do you want me to send this? It's like Turkish Aleppo pepper. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I never heard of this shit, but I was like, yeah, sure, send it to me. And I'm fucking hooked on this shit. It's so tasty. And so I might actually make a sauce or a dry rub based off of that too.
Makes sense. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And we'll definitely get someone to record it this year, or at least get a little bit of a montage.
Damn straight. I got this camera I'm looking at, and it needs to be used.
There we go. We got our house camera too that we can just set up in the corners.
Absolutely.
If push comes to shove.
A lot to look forward to.
Yep. This was a good chat, Eddie.
Yes, it was a little buffet, a little smorgasbord of just everything.
I know because all of our schedules conflict, so we can't always get together. But so it was originally going to be me, you, and Mitch tonight, and Mitch apparently lost his voice.
Ill.
Yeah. I don't think it's the COVID because the COVID you don't lose your voice with the COVID, and Mitch apparently lost his voice.
Well, if he like sang a lot and got COVID, that yeah,
I
that could happen.
guess.
Yeah. So we know him for his opera, and if you overdo it, that's like what, 2 concerts in a row,
Yeah.
and plus he's goes into a clinic intentionally, and
Yeah.
Mitch, poor Mitch,
Poor Mitch. Our prayers are out there for
absolutely.
that he regains his voice. Anyway, we're
Anyway,
glad to all the you blah 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 to all of you that joined us. I hope
how much have you been drinking? I should have asked
I-
that earlier.
I was drinking. So this will be the final note. Stone years ago canceled my favorite beer. It's called Sublimely Self-Righteous. It was a black IPA. To those people who don't really drink beers that much, it's like combining an IPA with a stout. It's a very unique style. I love it. I always try the black IPA no matter where I go. So
I
Stone
must
canceled
try
theirs.
that. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so Stone canceled theirs some years ago, and every now and then they'll like brew a beer that they canceled. So recently, I noticed that they rebrewed it, and so I bought several 6-packs, and that's what I've been drinking. And
Nice.
they're in the 8% range, 8.7, and I drank
And that's like you don't
two of
care.
them. Two of them while we've been sitting here.
Hour 5, we're gonna keep talking about wings. Damn straight.
Absolutely.
Mission accomplished.
Yep. But yeah, so to all of our viewers, in August we'll post the next Wing episode. Which now we're actually at a conundrum because we named all the Wing competitions. We would say A Song of Spice and Fire after the Game of Thrones books, and now this last year it was A Dream of Wing after A Dream of Spring. So now we're out of Game of Thrones books. So we'll have to name it something
Damn
else.
it! You're gonna have to like go to Wiggles songs and stuff. I don't know.
I think Lord of the Wings.
Lord of the Wings. Yeah,
That's something.
Sure.
We'll see.
sure. Stranger Wings.
Stranger
You know.
Wings. That's good. I like that.
Wings.
We'll find something.
Have a Demogorgon rub.
I had not thought of that. That's actually really funny. Stranger Wings. I like it.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
There you go. Pulling your weight.
There I go. Cool.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for everyone for joining in our shenanigans. Eddie, any last notes?
Just be gentle and kind to one another, and just know, unless you're in Congress or a lawyer, I mean, just be nice at the Thanksgiving table and eat the cranberry sauce and push away and just be friends.
There we go. Some positivity. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.
Have a night.